Hello, everyone, and welcome. So, Neptune is direct now, and the moon is 15 hours, 19 minutes from full, literally like 0 degrees Gemini right now. It is 12:11, which means it's 1:11 somewhere and 11:11 somewhere else. um, oh, there it is. On my laptop, it's 1:11. Um, and yeah, we're about to have this eclipse day. I'm excited because this is the first lunar eclipse all year that I've been able to sleep. So that's what I'm most excited about, if I'm being honest. Not most excited about, but it is pretty exciting that I'm able to sleep. Because usually, so in January, it was after the eclipse. But for the full moon Sagittarius and full moon Capricorn, it was before the eclipse that I was having trouble sleeping. And I'm good tonight. So, I mean, today, it ain't tonight yet, but I'm excited to be able to sleep. I feel like cooling these. I don't know necessarily why. Things are. Oops, what's that? The third? No, the throat portal with harmonic resolution and breakthrough. 19 and 4, this is the Emperor and the Sun energy. What is this? The throat portal is number 40, which is more, it could be Emperor or it's also death. So we got the Emperor twice, death, and the Sun. It's time to speak something to claim something. You got to speak it if you want to claim it. Also with breakthrough, I feel like it's just the end of a lot of like unnecessary worry, stress, anxiety, challenge, what's slowness, delay. If it's just spoken, then it's like, hey, it's like that magic word. I was thinking about Harry Potter before. Why? I don't remember. Oh, because it was something about tools. Because I was thinking about dreams lately, and my dreams have been, I mean, at least from about May, maybe even April. My dreams have been like wild, but for what's happening, it's like there's this elevation, I guess, that's happening in dreams, and all of that progress is maintained from dream to dream. And even lately, like there's more stuff happening, and it's these things that carry from dream to dream. And I remember before, um, I would have like these tools in dreams. If you think of Inception, let's call them totems, but they all had a purpose. And then this year, at some point, it's like, because I only actually had them in like 2 or 3 dreams. The only ones like I only remembered them in like 2 or 3 dreams, but after the third one, I didn't even need them anymore to do whatever they allowed me to do. And I was thinking about Harry Potter and how like a wand, or even in a lot of times you see like a magic user and they have some kind of arcanum. The arcanum itself is basically just to focus energies to the point where it is usable to its holder. But if we sort of increase our sensitivity to energy, I guess, then we no longer need the arcanum to interact with the world in magical ways. Like how I think Dumbledore and Hermione, I've only seen the movies once, but I think in Harry Potter, Dumbledore and Hermione. Oh, snap. Okay, I haven't seen that card in a while. And the bottom of the deck is the lovers. That's interesting. Um, they cast spells without using wand. And so this is like breakthrough in like every area. What is that? Life, healing, sunlight, nature, serenity, and spirituality. Bottom of the deck over here is magical realms, number 28. Speaking of magic, 28 would be the high priestess. No, 28 is justice and strength. Justice and strength is interesting because their positions are interchangeable. I think if you use, or if you go to a deck with a Thoth base, then justice will be 8 and strength will be 11. But if you use a deck with the rider weight base, then justice is 11 and strength is 8. I think I'm not extremely knowledgeable. Okay, I just know some things sometimes. But like, I think even in the Archangel power cards, in that deck, strength is number 11 and justice is number 8. And like every other deck I have, it's the opposite. Well, the lovers, did I say the lovers? Strength and justice. Um, but with magical realms and the lovers, this to me, it goes back to those self honoring choices that the angel of balance started coming out with a minute ago. But she just came out last time I used the energy oracle cards. A few times we saw the angel of balance, didn't we? And so here it's through the space of choice we create these sort of lives for ourselves that's filled with magic. But it's not only through choice, it's also through word. Now the solar plexus had been coming up a lot, and the lovers can also deal with solar plexus because when we make a decision with the lovers, it's an action, not just a decision. Like the lovers' decisions are actionable more times than not. And even if it's something that we're sort of not doing, it involves a certain level of commitment that could involve a certain level of restraint at the very least, right? To decide to no longer do something. Um, it could be marriage or divorce, but it's coming out in the way of the throat. And the throat is the way that we communicate the internal with and to the external. It's where that exchange happens, right? With the third eye portal, it's more so being on the receiving end of it. But with the throat, that's our ability to affect it in these higher ways that aren't so base or primal, like in the solar plexus. And it's not that base or primal is like lower, it's just for those things that require a subtler touch, the throat is involved. And for those that are more like concrete and like, you know, whatever, that's when we use the solar plexus. And the solar plexus was coming out for a minute quite often, or sometimes with the sun card, which was all about us embodying these higher potentials in action and in deed. Now, this again, like breakthrough, harmonic resolution with the throat, it's something that has to be spoken. But like every area of life, because like it's basically like we've changed in theory and in practice. Or maybe we're working on the practice part, but at least we've changed in theory. And that's what opens up this magical realm. Because once we're able to speak it, then we can have it, right? It's like, you have not because you ask not. Speak and you shall receive. Knock and it will be open. This is interesting. Oh, I was watching Rustling Around this morning. He uploaded a video about the full moon Gemini, lunar eclipse, and Neptune going direct. And he said, usually with the full moon eclipse, you don't really manifest anything because, the Earth shadow, it's a time for whatever. I don't know. But he said with Neptune going direct, then we can make wishes. And that's this energy. But again, like if we can't even speak it, it's like hoping for something but never placing the order. Well, if you never place the order, how are you expecting to get it? I remember one time it was late and I was so hungry and I placed an order for some food and I waited like an hour. And I was like, where is my food? So I opened up my laptop to go check on the status of my delivery or my order, and it wasn't even placed. And then they closed because it was that late. And I was like, well, I'm going to bed soon anyway. Um, but another thing that came to mind is, when a new day dawns, it's already been that day for some 5 to 7 hours because the day starts at midnight and it's dark for hours before the sun rises. And so a lot of times if the sun is rising in a situation or in a space, it's because we've already been holding it in the dark, right? You don't wait for the sun to come up to do whatever you got to do for the day, right? Because then instead of being asleep at night where everything's asleep, you're going to be asleep during the day when the sun is actually out. And then when you wake back up, it's going to be nighttime again. And without a calendar or some way to take time or to measure time, there's no way for the body to know like what day it is. And so it's like depending on your cycles and how they match up with natural cycles, it's possible for you to think that you've missed something that you haven't missed. But since everything is so like, well, I want to say ear, nose, and throat, since everything is so mind, throat sort of related, it's almost like it's possible for us to set ourselves back even when we're not necessarily there in some ways. But that was just the pre whatever. Let's get into the actual whatever. That's interesting. That's interesting. I mean, breakthrough and a harmonic resolution with that throat portal. I mean, I guess I'm not surprised because I feel like for a while I've been saying, the things that we can't speak, how are we expected to be able to receive them? Is that Ice Queen? No, that's the crown portal. Crown portal right there. The crown and throats. So a few days ago, I got on this one app because of ads on YouTube, and I was like, it's an interesting premise, sure. They asked for a lot of information, and I'm like, okay, but in the digital age, all of that information is available anyway. But just because it's available doesn't necessarily mean that I should make it even more available. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is, I was scrolling through the lineup, and this one was like, so you want to be a throat goat. And it was so funny, but I feel like that's this energy. It's like, so you want to be a throat goat, but not in necessarily. Oh, wow. Wow. Okay. Okay. That's been a theme for the past few days, but not in this context, in a very carnal context. But anyway, it's like mastering what we speak, but not only mastering what we speak, because again, like last time I said, the throat is that which communicates the internal to the external to in more subtle ways than the solar plexus can allow affect change. But if your throat isn't connected to anything, then it's like it almost doesn't matter. Its power is diminished when it's not connected to anything, right? That's like if you're using a microphone, but the microphone isn't plugged up, then it doesn't amplify your voice, right? And so, what's your throat plugged up to? I guess maybe I'll title this. So you want to be a throat goat? um, but yeah, it's about what it's sort of rooted to. There's harmonic resolution again, this time with challenges. So we saw harmonic resolution with breakthrough. This time the harmonic resolution is with the challenges. And again, oh goodness, what's that with it? I guess I'll shuffle these. Oh, well, there we go. I don't want to take this. I don't. Like, I'll take it, but that's not how I wanted to start. Bottom of the deck is Galactic Guidance number 18, which is the moon. Galactic Guidance being 18 is that energy of like being helped and assisted in ways that we don't necessarily sort of see. It is a little bit of I want to say deconstruction for some reason. Maybe it's deconstructing boundaries and barriers and borders and blockages. But it's almost orchestrated, but it's this like, I think that's the construction because it's like certain things were sort of mapped out, but then there's this energy that comes in with a higher perspective, and it's like it redesigns the board in a way that fulfills all of the requirements, but it's like it cleans up unnecessary expenses and stuff like that. But those expenses can only be deemed unnecessary if we no longer need them, right? If the prerequisites have been fulfilled. It's almost like we get this like newbie insurance in a way. So it's this insurance that we have. It's a cost that we have when we're new to something because we're prone to make some kind of mistake, just because we're new. But after a certain period, it's like, that newbie's insurance we can take off, and it reduces our premium. That's how they do like car insurance, right? Like when you're younger, and if you're in a group that's associated to have more risk, then you pay a higher price, higher premiums or whatever. But then once you exit that group, then it drops, and it's like a similar energy. And with this coming out in the heart portal, it's more about connection. Green is the lower heart, pink is the higher heart, and here we see this medley of green and pink, and that's something else that Mr. Around, Wrestling Around, has been talking about quite a fair amount. Is integrating, uniting, bringing together the higher heart chakra and the lower heart chakra. Galactic guidance can also be it's feeling like a mentorship type of position that we're supposed to be coming into because of sort of the people and the lives that we are in. What is this? The Two of Cups with the Five of Swords. It's like the people who we're sort of bound to come in contact with, I guess. Right? And what we're supposed to do for them. The channel matrix explained just popped up on my home screen on my feed the other day. And there was something, I've referenced it before, but I could never remember what it was. And it was when the Oracle told Neo that we can't see past decisions that we don't understand. And so it's like in some ways, this year has been a journey of understanding. And it's been an opportunity for us to not only understand, but for us to rework sort of like why we make the choices and decisions that we make, but in ways that are more fueled by either past traumas or nostalgia. And that's why like lots of Six of Cups type healing has needed to be done in order to really sort of liberate ourselves to make an actual choice. And that's something that I've been talking about, right? If you only choose fear, or if you only choose flight, or if you only choose fight, then your choices are always made for you. But again, it's this energy of like, we're not here to sort of make or not make the choice. We're here to understand why we've already made the choice. But instead of already making the choice, it's like this time sort of rewriting itself type of energy, because it's like, and it only happens if we become these people who would no longer make those choices. It's like that's the only way to kind of sort of break the loop or break the paradigm, is to put ourselves in a position to make a different choice. And with the throat portal, to communicate that choice and not to just hold it internally with no way of signaling it to the universe or to the environment around you. Right. And it's like, spirit knows, of course, but when you're in the physical, interacting with the physical, there's some things that have to translate. And again, the throat is one of the more subtle ways to do that. Because with the solar plexus, like you'd have to actually, I don't know, like go up there and do something. It's like in the Bible when they're like, if you have faith the size of a grain of mustard seed, then you can tell the mountain to move and the mountain will move. Now, telling the mountain to move is a lot easier than physically going and trying to move the mountain. Right? There are some solar plexus things that the solar plexus is for, and there are some throat things I was like, what's coming to my mind? Like tongue things, some light things, some throat things. I can think of the word throat. Bottom of the deck, is this the Queen of Cups? It's the Queen of Cups. So this is going back to when the Queen of Cups is pre um the Queen of Cups is pre High Priestess in her ability to perceive into the subtle, but she doesn't necessarily have as complete of a picture or as complete of an understanding as the High Priestess would. So I see the Three of Wands, the Eight of Cups, and the Three of Swords. But I'm going to read this as the Three of Swords, the Eight of Cups, and the Three of Wands because the Eight of Cups is giving us a sort of directionality, right? With the Three of Wands at the back of the Eight of Cups, heading towards the three, or with the Three of Swords at the back of the Eight of Cups, heading towards the Three of Wands. Now, this is when trauma and pain becomes a defense mechanism and it becomes something that we sort of root ourselves in, right? It's like, I'm never going to allow this to happen to me again, so I won't be vulnerable in this area. And what it does is it creates blockages and limiters on what we are capable of receiving. Now, with galactic guidance, there's this element of trust that needs to happen that comes through the space of the Queen of Cups, the one who trusts and values her intuition. So we're trusting that this guidance from an outside source that we're getting, and it's so like, because we have galactic guidance in this deck and also celestial assistance, I think. And there's a difference between assistance and guidance. With assistance, that's like partially, at least partially done for you. With guidance, it's more like advising. And so it's not doing anything for you necessarily, but it's almost laying it out for you in a way that itemizes it, or that it makes it applies a heuristic to it. I think that's the word I want. It's like this step by step, or this, like, this is the most like top priority, mid-level priority, and then low priority. And I think sometimes when we're on these journeys, and especially if we've been on them for a while, or if we're encountering an area that we are like re-encountering and re-encountering and re-encountering, or if there is some blockage and resistance in us, what it does is it gets us to hyper focus on these low priority things that have very little payback, as opposed to those higher priority or mid priority things that will give us more payback, that requires a little bit more. But it's like some of those, like the higher the priority, the more attachment that it has below. And so if there's like a high priority item that you take care of, it can knock off or at least make easier a few mid priorities and like a chunk of low priority things. Because it's like the lower priority things are typically manifestations of higher priority things, but kind of sort of ramified or spread out, or maybe like removed from the source. And so if the source of your worry is all the way over here, and you're focusing on these low priority things, and you go to these low priority things and these low priority things, like, you can see how far you're removed from the actual blockage. And it's like a dam that keeps things from flowing. And we've seen three chakras, the throat portal, the crown portal, and now the heart portal. So the only one in the upper four that we haven't seen so far is the third eye. But the last time I used these, I believe the third eye portal came out. Now, I don't know if that was on this channel or the other one, but still, the point still stands. We've seen the higher three, or the higher four. And now the heart is also sort of this, it's the point of conjunction. The heart in the tree of life is connected to like every sephira except Malkuth, I think, because Malkuth is only connected to the root. But Malkuth is like where all of the, like the 9 or the 8, because I don't know if we like necessarily go all the way to Keter or Cater or however you pronounce it. I should learn how to pronounce those. Because that one's kind of sort of like the unknowable. But it is, I guess, still in Malkuth, that element that sort of unites everything, that can't necessarily be described. And it's also reminding me of what happens when things pass from, like when we pass into the unknowable in some ways. But anyway, I feel like I'm going, well, not necessarily. Back to this. If there's a blockage in the heart, oh well, look at this. The heart portal with 3 swords in it. Those are the blockages that we have to walk away from to claim what it is that we're desiring. And I feel like what it is that we're desiring, honestly, it feels like it's putting us in a position to create these for ourselves. And it's the Page of Cups in the Affirmator's Tarot that has the paintbrush and the cup that paints its own life. And I feel like that's what this is about. And again, this is galactic guidance. This is guidance from an outside off Earth perspective. It's not any assistance. It's not doing anything for you. It's just trying to frame it in a way that gets you to see what's actually important. And this year has been an ability, or has been a great sort of time for us to learn and discover what is actually important to us. And also to discover sort of like ways in which certain systems are kind of sort of fundamentally flawed in what it is that they do or don't do for those that they are intended to serve. It's a whole bunch of like rogue programs that aren't even doing, and it's like they may be doing what they were designed to do, but they're not doing what they're advertised as doing, or what they're marketed as, or what, you know, they're like people are told they're there to do. But this is us needing to, so from a sword to a wand is a softening energy, but it's also this energy where hurt, pain, or a lesson becomes something that takes our vision further. So there is an element of integration here of this 3 of Swords, but it's leaving the swords behind, right? It's like whenever something heals, there's a scar, and the scar is the reminder that it happened. And I feel like, you know, as humans, these scars are sort of mentally and psychologically important, because it almost becomes this way of deterring us from going back to that, right? Like if you never learn that fire is hot, then how are you to know? Like you might just be burned up. Um, it's very like conditional sort of programming, but it's that way because people are such, or can be such, naturally curious, explorative, and daring creatures, right? So again, it's like if you never learn that fire is hot, then you may be like always in the pot, and then one day you end up overcooked and you're done. And so it also teaches us limitation in a type of way. It outlines things for us to feel in whatever way that we desire, and if we choose to go outside the lines, then that's a choice that we make. Instead of, you know, when you're younger, you just color everywhere. Lines don't even exist. It's like, man, you just colored way outside the lines. But again, with that Queen of Cups, it's this energy. Who is this? The Hermit, Le Hermite. There's this energy of, on some level, not only knowing, but I feel like agreeing to some things. Now, you know, we have free will and we have choice, and so we can always make our lives harder than they're intended to be. So I don't think everything necessarily was sort of laid out in the beginning, because again, like if we choose to take a little bit longer, full card, then, you know, we can. But even those that weren't initially laid out can become learning opportunities because obviously we didn't learn it before we went there. And sometimes we learn stuff, but we do it anyway because hashtag free will. It's like I know better. I knew better. Why do I continue to do this? And then sometimes there's something there. Sometimes we just gotta stop, right? Okay, so let's do one more. That was actually decent. When I saw that heart portal at first, I was like, "Oh, what is this? What is this?" Ooh, we're coming upon the season of closings. So many things closing while simultaneously opening. It's kind of wild how everything kind of sort of went off. Went everything switched from one track from the easy route to the extreme route all at once, it seems, but it's all sort of shifting. It's like it's coming back in a way that allows more flow. I'm still learning stuff. Oh my gosh, I've been learning stuff, I feel like, constantly. Well, I feel like honestly right now it's more about putting things into practice. It's about practicing the things that I've learned, especially this year, more so than like still learning them. Um, but man, like yesterday, I had to force myself to take breaks. I'm like, who am I? Force myself to break? I was like, yeah, because if I don't, I'm gonna be burnt out for several days, and I can't afford that right now. So the last card we have is number 44. 44 is Death and the Emperor, which is interesting because we saw that earlier. We had that energy with the 40, which was either Death or the Emperor. Now here's Death and the Emperor in 44. So it's wisdom. Wisdom is psychic intuition and truth. Psychic intuition and truth. And we just had that Queen of Cups. Bottom of the deck is breakthrough. Number 4, the Emperor again. Leap of faith, freedom, and new beginnings. As I was talking about, chapters closing and other ones opening simultaneously. That's the thing about sort of gateways. And I guess a gateway is different than a terminus because the terminus, by definition, is just an ending. But a gateway, a doorway, a portal, it's simultaneously an ending and a beginning, right? At the terminus, like you wait for something to come in to sort of take you from one to the next. And so there's the terminus, there's the intermediate or the intermediary period, and then there's the new beginning on the other side. But with the gateway, the portal, or the doorway, it's like it cuts out the intermediary period. You go from exiting right to entering. And with wisdom here, it's almost about it's the knowing beyond the knowing of why we would have a sort of gateway situation as opposed to a terminus situation because there are terminus times and there are gateway times, right? And again, I just discovered my great grandfather, my mother's father, his middle name. I just discovered his middle name a few days ago. And it's interesting because his middle name is Don. And what, months ago now, Akusunade popped in my mind, or Kusunade popped into my mind when I was about to go to sleep. And I was like, well, let me just put this in Google Translate real quick before I like wake up and forget. And then that's when it corrected to Akusunade, and Akusunade meaning Don. And here, my great grandfather's middle name was Don. His first name, like his first and middle name together, is very interesting because it's kind of sort of been a theme on this channel. Um, as especially when I use like the angel cards, or sometimes, not all the time, but it's been this theme of like this new dawn coming. But even in the envy card in the energy oracle, we see the masked character or the super pale character who is standing at that gateway to light. And it's a gateway again because there's no transition between the dark and the light in that card. It's like right there. As soon as you step over this, and you're in there. And again, there's no middle passage. There's no hallway. There's no intermediary phase, no limbo, no purgatory. Because it's like the time of waiting is over. Like this whole, like our whole lifetime has been, whenever we decide to start, that's when that sort of waiting period begins until we come into what we're coming into now. So it's like it's collapsing on top of each other, and only one reality can exist, or we can only exist in one reality, even though we exist in many at the same time. We can only exist in one collective consensus of varying degrees and levels at a time, right? And when we talk about the most macro, the collective consensus that we call reality, we can only exist in one of those, and we can exist in like several sort of subcategories. Anyway, I don't know. But as these are collapsing on top of each other, it shortens and shortens and shortens that hallway, that middle passage, that whatever. It collapses the terminus, and the what's the beginning? I know it has a root and origin. It collapses the terminus and the origin point into this gateway. Where am I going with this? What? The envy card. Yeah. And so with the envy card, it's like, we can choose to stay attached to our darkness and to peer out into the light, but never to step forth into it. And again, I can't remember where I was going with that because I just lost it. Bottom of the deck is the Eight of Pentacles. Oh, because I was talking about whenever we decide to step through. Okay. Knight of Pentacles, from the Eight of Pentacles to the Nine of Pentacles. This is, love that energy. Well, since we're heading in this direction, the Knight of Pentacles is us taking up this wisdom to encounter this breakthrough, with the King of Swords being a change in our understanding. And finally, I mean, everything else just came out, so. But yeah, it's coming to this point where it's all collapsing on top of each other. But again, it reminds me, I guess it's like, at whatever point you choose, I'm going to look at this, but I'm not going to take it. The Page of Wands, which is all about setting out on a new venture full of fire and passion. But, depending on how long the night is, it may not be that easy for the page to keep it alight, especially if the page is the only one tending the fire, because if he goes to sleep, then the fire might go to sleep. But, that's why we're starting with the Knight of Pentacles into the King of Swords. And maybe that's what we started with. But I guess then, like depending on what time you wake up or whatever, is when you will see the sunrise. It's like sometimes if you go to sleep at a certain time and you wake up and you think that you've slept through a whole day for whatever reason. It's also reminded me of Christmas, though. It's one of those nights where you can't sleep because you're so excited, or you just want it to be the morning. But again, the day starts at midnight, and for the first chunk of the day, it's dark. And for the last chunk of the day, it'll be dark. So, if you want that new day, you gotta face the darkness. Living in the light of yesterday. That's what that envy card is. It's living in the light of yesterday, but tomorrow is so bright that it makes yesterday dark, because dark and light are comparative. Oh, goodness. I hope that other card is... Bottom of the deck is the Six of Wands. I love that victorious energy, that champion, that you never gonna keep me down, we get back up, or whatever type energy, in the face of overwhelming obstacle. and seemingly at the time insurmountable challenge and not that great odds, we still emerge victorious because we're more powerful than our situations and our circumstances if we choose to be. And some situations and circumstances are, from a humanistic point of view, objectively easier, not objectively, subjectively easier than others. But all can be overcome. So the card that came out is the devil, but I'm glad. I'm hoping this card will say something, because this card to me, it speaks of, it's like final boss type energy. It speaks of the thing that we would eventually encounter, the thing that we eventually defeat, the thing that we eventually put away if we've learned how to play the game. Now, it's reminding me of one of those games that's like kind of sort of multiplayer, but you come upon these sort of solo missions that you have to do for yourself. And again, that's the difference between guidance and assistance, because I feel like it's really easy for us to fall into these sort of systems, or to fall into these patterns where assistance becomes somebody doing everything for us, which, some people are fine with. But when you come upon that final boss, if you don't know how to play the game, you're going to struggle. You are going to struggle hardcore. And so it's been this teaching moment. Like, I will teach you how to play the game. I will teach you how to master the game, so that when you come upon the final boss, you're already prepared in equipment and level and stats, in every single way you could be prepared. You're already prepared, and it makes it a piece of cake, because it's the preparation that you've done up front. It's like there is a progressive difficulty throughout the game, but the difficulty is already scaled, right? And so again, it's like it all boils down to preparation. If you're over prepared, and since the difficulty is already scaled, it makes it easier to overcome. Now, when you get into the after end game bosses, those are the ones that are like sort of scaled to be difficult no matter where you are in the game. And those are the ones who will be sort of a level beyond the level that you're capable of achieving, right? So if the maximum level is 100, then they'll be like level 105, because it's designed to give you a challenge no matter what. Those are harder limits put into the game. But if it comes to like the main story, like the first boss is level 3, the second boss is level 10, and then 25, and then 50, right? Let's say that's the number of bosses. But your maximum level is 100. So you can play the game to level 75 and then come upon that level 50 final boss, and it's a piece of cake. Again, it's all about the preparation that you do. With the Knight of Pentacles into the King of Swords, this should be something that we're more than capable of handling, if we decide to be, and if we've done the work, and if we exercise the wisdom that we've achieved through these. Again, it's like this shifting back to the source type energy. So there have been breakthroughs in all of these areas leading up to this. If we can integrate the wisdom from those into our armor and our sword and use it to fight this boss, then we can claim, hey, completion, the world card. The world card to me is that gateway, because it's about endings and beginnings simultaneously. Any 9 energy is like a terminus, right? 9 of Cups, 9 of Pentacles, even the 9 of Swords and the 9 of Wands, those are terminus energy, termini energy. But the 10, that's a gateway, because it's ending and beginning. And then the 11, that awakening, that's both feet firmly on the other side, instead of that like 10 kind of sort of in between type of energy. Oh, I'm so glad that was the world card. I'm so glad. The world card and the 6 of Wands. That's what we're heading towards. Mm, mm. Ooh, that make me feel so good. Because if that would have been like the 8 of Swords or something, I would be like, no. That's what we've been preparing for. Gauss. I'm actually going to read, well, if I can find my phone, that is. I'm going to read the world card. Then I'll read the devil too, because why not? Oh, snap. Let's see. I want to read both of these. I had a dream last night. It was my dad and somebody else. And he had like a basketball or something. And he was like, he was playing with the basketball, or they were playing with the basketball. And then it rolled. And it was like this grassy area, like off of the court or whatever. And it kept rolling and it kept rolling. No, first it was sandy, because I remember. And then it was grassy. And I'm the one going after the ball. First, I'm just walking because I don't really run for much of anything, honestly. But then when I noticed it wasn't stopping, then I started moving a little quicker, and there were these two bears in the grassy part, and I was like, "Oop, too close to the bears. Oh, let's pack it up and let's go." And my dad was saying something like, "Wow, like why are they out here? Like that's crazy. Like look at them." But then, like the closer the ball got to the bears, the more we were like, "It's time for us to go," because that ball is gonna get their attention, and then they're gonna see us up here. So we was already like in the car and about to leave. And we looked back at the bears and one of them made a noise, or it was making a noise, and then it like slapped the other bear. Uh and we're all looking at them like what and kind of laughing like what just happened? And then they look at us and we're like, oh, okay, it's time to go. It's time to go. Oh, I don't know what that was about. What's this? Oh, snap. Hold up. Is that the Ace of Pentacles? Oh, the Ace of Pentacles is behind the Six of Wands. That's that whole new world. That's successfully navigating the transitional period that was the Two of Pentacles when we're sort of balancing between both. And yeah, I guess the Six of Wands decided to slide up so I can read that. That's what we have to win, to claim, to gain. Whew. It was so funny. I was like, I ain't here to shame no bear for what they into. But goodness. And I don't even like I think I showed up and like my dad was like, oh hey, look at that. I'm like, wait. Hold up, wait, energy oracle cards. No, I'm not. I'm looking at the pride tarot. 1 second. I'll read both the devil and the world. And then we had the lovers earlier. The lovers came out when we had the heart portal. It was the Three of Swords, the Eight of Cups. No, the lovers came out before that because that was the Queen of Cups. The lovers came out at the beginning. The lovers came out with the pride card, and that was with the throat portal, breakthrough, and harmonic resolution. And the bottom of the deck was magical realms. That was us being in the space of making those self-honoring choices and decisions and acting through them, speaking and acting to claim that resolution in every area. And now here breakthrough is at the bottom and we're ending with the devil. But the ability to close that cycle, the ability to free the lovers to come into that multi-dimensional breakthrough that liberates us on so many fronts. Fascinating. Okay. So first, I'll read the devil cards. Oh, there's the tower, so I just passed it. The Devil, illustrated by Irene Lorenzi. And you can see that they're tied up by the red string of fate, right? And the thread came out in the thread came out in the reading for Gemini or Sagittarius. I think it was one of the mutable ones. The thread came out, and I've been talking about it for a minute. And Kamae Tachi came up the other day, but I don't remember what it means because it reminded me of the Kyari Pamu Pamu song that she released not too long ago. And I talked about it on one of these channels. Because in the video, she had a red thread, the red thread of fate between two characters. And she said, Kaminari Kamaitachi. And Kaminari is thunder. And we entered the year of the blue lunar storm. And I was like, well, what's Kamaitachi? I didn't find an answer, but then it popped up somewhere and I already forgot. But let's just call it thunder and lightning, I guess. Because no storm is complete without at least the two of them. And then you also get the wind and the rain. And it's all about differences in temperature and pressure and density. Density is a function of temperature, and depending on the gas, it can also be a function of pressure if it's compressible. If it's non compressible, then it's like independent of pressure. But more often than not in weather, we look at it in terms of temperature and density. Warm air, warm things in general, typically, unless we're talking about ice, is less. No. It's the same. Well, no, it's not. For water, it's different because water is more dense when it's a. No, hold up, wait. I think that's about volume. Water has a greater volume as a solid than it does as a liquid. It expands as it freezes, and a lot of things will shrink as they freeze. Okay, it's not about that. Sorry. So, hotter air, warmer air has a lower density than cooler air. And since it's less dense, no warm air naturally rises. And since it's more dense, cooler, colder air naturally sinks. And so, what happens when you have cold air coming in on top of warm air, it's like as the warm air is rising, the cold air sinks, and then it creates at that sort of interface between them, it creates the storm. And if we're talking about air, it could be sort of the collective mindscape. It's that collective consensus on what is reality. Could be. And so in this space, it creates these opportunities for things to change and evolve in ways that they haven't necessarily before. Pair that with, the winter/summer solstice coming in on the day that Saturn and Jupiter are conjuncting in Aquarius at the 0th degree. And apparently it's the first time they've conjuncted in an air sign in like no, it's, hold up, wait, what is it? Russell literally just said it. It's like in like 1500 years, it's the first time they're moving together this close into a sign and conjuncting, and that being in an air sign. Yeah, it's the first air sign conjunction that they've had in a minute. They've been conjuncting an earth sign since, I guess, around the Industrial Revolution. And then it's like the first time that they're both moving into like the same sign in like over 1,000 years. It's interesting energy as we have this idea of what the world is and what it should be. We have this old sort of antiquated and outdated idea versus this new sort of Aquarian idea. One involves, it seems, one, especially in this country, involves a more equal and fair playing field than the other. Now, what some people don't, or what it could be, I guess, hard to realize is that it's kind of sort of a losing game for everybody, the old way. Because what it does is it leads certain people to feel entitled to certain things that are not guaranteed to them. And when they don't get that with all of the guns and everything else here, girl, they just start shooting people up. And it's like, what? And it's like, I know that the media and everything else I don't necessarily like to get racial, but it is what it is. It's like for certain classes and individuals of people through media and so many things. It's like everything is yours. That's that manifest destiny has never died. They're still manifesting destiny. We're still manifesting destiny. Things are changing now. And so what it does is like it leads certain people to feel entitled to certain things. And especially if you're like a male, then it's like you get all these people who are like, I was rejected by these females, and so I'm gonna go and shoot up people because I was rejected by a girl. And it's like kind of sort of like men in general have some entitlement to female bodies. That's like understandable, I guess, because of societal programming. But when it comes to the point of like really like, I don't know, it just kind of sort of blows my mind. Maybe it's because I think of people as actual people with their own, sort of worlds and choices and brains. And so no one is entitled, or like, I don't feel entitled for anyone to like or even respect me in some ways, especially if we're talking about societal programming. But in my mind, it's just like wild. And then, they end up doing things because of that entitlement. And it's an entitlement that exists for like even minorities in some categories can be a majority in other categories. And it's like what's denied through the space of the minority, in some ways, it increases this, like it acts as this like increased attachment to the little bit of the end that they have that makes them even more entitled in some ways. And I don't, it's weird being a person living down here. Anyway, back to this, because this is an opportunity to break all of this on every single front, as the freed lovers showed us with that pride card. So the devil stands out in the universe while a man and a woman cling to his horns. The man and the woman are bound to each other and also to the devil, with red ropes that also cover their eyes, from which they can no longer see. Choosing to remain in the darkness is a kind of ignorance. Talking about that envy card, staying in the darkness, looking out into the light. Okay. Choosing to remain in the darkness is a kind of ignorance. The devil can lead to luck or ruin and indicate strong attraction and intense sexuality that can lead to salvation as well as destruction. In us lies a dark, abject side, fearful of the mysterious power of temptation. It is up to us to decide whether to free ourselves from the evil that stagnates in us or to let ourselves be overwhelmed by it. We have two paths to take, one of good and the other of evil. It is up to us to decide which way to go. And then we're coming in with this world card. There's the moon, there's the sun, there's judgment, there's the world. The World by Christy C. Rode. My world card portrays Dante Oshun, or Aksun, I don't know how to pronounce this, sorry, an activist, artist, and educator at Legacy Community Health. The world asks you to note the synchronized moments that mark the turning point you are at. Trust what's in progress and bask in what's complete. The world is a time where we are able to rise above our trauma, own our mistakes, and honor our self worth as our consciousness is elevated and strong enough to fight and willing to survive. The world has access to all of their gifts, as their past, present, and future is finally integrated in one body. The world is prone to direct action, direct truth, and direct responsibility. The world is energetically aligned, broad in vision, and willing to listen. The world can see and feel the reality of healing as they walk through the earth in the truest manifestation of themselves. Freed, again, in this devil energy. The freed lovers at the beginning. That was all about all that breakthrough and harmonic resolution, coming up the throat portal with magical realms. Excuse me. I'm loving this. All right, sorry for that, y'all. Now let's get into these final messages. I had a feeling that I kind of wanted to come on and pull around Temperance, but we're not going to do that today. So, ooh, is that the Nine of Cups? It is the Nine of Cups. Nine of Cups has moon phases on it. Right, there's a nine, there's a terminus. But will you actually accept it or not? That's the question. Now, if you've learned the lesson from the Four of Cups, then you can recognize that cup when the divine brings it to you, you accept it, and you move into the Ten of Cups. If not, you probably choose something that's Seven of Cups that you have to walk away from again with the Eight of Cups, and you repeat that 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, 9 until you're ready for that new cycle and you step into the 10. Now, I say it's 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8. Sometimes we hit a 9, and then we go back and 8, 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8, 7, 8 until we hit that 9, and then we're ready for that 10. Ooh, exploration. Okay, I'm going to turn these over so I don't see them. I'm going to get the final cards, final messages. Final messages. Ooh, excuse me. These have actually been talking to me. Oh, I'm going to pick now. I'm going to use my free will. Do I want this one or this one, though? I'm leaning towards this one, but I want to see what this one is. Bottom of the deck is Wisdom again. I thought it was Transformation for a second because it looks like the same figure. Well, I didn't actually think it was Transformation, but it reminded me of Transformation for a second. We see her cloak of green and her clothes of, looks like red and orange, mostly red. So there's the root, there's the heart. She's tray pale. And being this pale, like it could almost be assumed that she's dead or that she's like some ethereal type creature. I mean, she is a fairy. But to me, it's removed from life. But it's removed from life in the way of like not being so enthralled and entangled in what happens in the day to day. Because wisdom almost exists beyond that. But we channel it through whatever situation we're faced with. Now, the two cards, oh, which one was the one that I wanted? I don't remember. I don't remember. It might have been this one. For y'all watching, y'all probably know because y'all saw me set them down. Oh, okay. So on one side we have trust. On the other side we have the sacred portal. We have a 6 and a 7, 34 and 42. 42 is death and the high priestess. 34 is the hangman and the emperor. So the hangman and the emperor and the sacral, high priestess and death and trust. Trust, wisdom. Love that energy. But I feel like the difference between these two is that the sacral is more concerned with creating, where trust is letting that creation come to fruition. It's almost like, being pregnant. Eventually, you have to let the baby go. You can't keep it inside of you forever. And I've seen a show where somebody literally kept her baby in her body. It was an anime. I will preface it by saying that. She kept her baby in her body for 400 years. But when the baby was born, it was born as a baby. It wasn't born as some 400-year-old person. It was born as a baby. So whenever you release this is when it begins to grow. And to keep it trapped in the womb is not, it gets to a certain point where it doesn't do you any favors, right? There's the gestation period where it's necessary. But at a certain point, it has to be released. And trust is that release, allowing it to actually be. And it's something that, honestly, I struggle with sometimes, but I've found I just like have to keep reminding myself to trust and let go, trust and let go. Because I really, really, really want, I really want these things that are happening. And I know like some people will be like, oh, like release your attachment to the desire. And it's not necessarily wanting things to happen in a specific way. It's just feeling the energy of what's coming and wanting it. I'm like, oh my gosh. First, there was the period of like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. I don't know if I can do this. And then that was preceded by, I don't want to self sabotage. I don't want to self sabotage. I'm freaking out about potentially sabotaging. And then when it came, I was like, oh crap. This is the point where old Patrick would sabotage the mess out of this. But current Patrick, new Patrick was like, I want to get this done. I'm ready to be done and I'm ready to claim it. And whenever I slow down a little bit, I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna miss it. I'm gonna do whatever. And it's like, no, you're not, chill. And I know that I'm not, because that's been part of my journey since last year. Is learning to trust the timing and that everything will happen in the time it's meant to, and it will be fine by the end as long as I continue to do what I need to do in the moment. Six of Cups at the bottom of the deck we're starting with, and I talked about that earlier. So final message from the Pro Tarot. Ace of Swords with the King of Cups. Now that's a King of Swords I can get behind. Now we're coming upon that Emperor energy. There's been a lot of Emperor energy. Look, there's the Hangman with the Ace of Swords. Just saw the Hangman with the Emperor in that, as I'm speaking about Emperor energy, there hasn't really been any Empress energy, which is interesting. Seven of Pentacles with the Hangman. But yeah, things are happening in their time, girl. And I was getting like really anxious, I guess, or nervous that I wouldn't have enough time to do everything that I need to do, especially as more and more things just continue to come onto my plate. But it's everything that I've been asking for. And I've been saying, if you're asking for a lot, you have to be willing to do a lot. And I've been continuously willing to do more and more and more, because I know that I'm asking for a lot and I want every single thing that I'm asking for. And I'm willing to do whatever it is that I need to do to make them come true. Oh, what a perfect way to end this. Bottom of the deck. Oh, what a perfect way to end this. It's the Queen of Cups. As I'm talking about what I'm talking about, this is the knowing that everything is in the process of change. Everything is in the process of transition. This is world card, but literally the whole world, not just like this section is closing and that section is closing. This might be the end of a series, right? Like we're ending the series of Lemony Snicket's, a series of unfortunate events, and starting the series of Lemony Snicket's, a series of fortunate events, where the Baudelaire children finally put all that shady stuff behind them and they can actually it's like everything that was just mysteriously unfortunate before is just like clicking, working, clicking, working, clicking, working now. And I love that energy. I forgot what I was talking about, but that sums it up. I'm willing to do a lot, and I'm continuously doing even more because I want a lot. And I've been saying that for a while. I've been saying a lot of stuff for a while. It's cool. Well, that's what I have today. I will actually pull one of these to end it because I'm feeling like it. And I might just literally pull it out of the deck and then put these cards right back. I think I will do that. Whatever. Not that one. I want this one right here. The universe works fast when I'm having fun. Emphasis on the universe works fast part. The when I'm having fun part, I feel like that's a release on expectation and a release on time. It's like time flies when you're having fun. The universe works fast when you're having fun. And I feel like it's about fun on a more complete level rather than just like base, like sacral, solar, carnal fun. I feel like it's also, aligned heart and crown fun. And it's like, isn't it fun to be free of things that once held you down and held you back? Isn't it amazing and just like almost mind melting in a way to be in a space that you never would have allowed yourself to be in or that you never had like permission to be in before? To have dreams so close to reality that far exceeded your wildest of imaginings. It's crazy. And it's really it's fun. It's fun seeing what the universe will bring you when you like release and you're open and you have more to receive than lessons. And it's about like, well, if you have fun when you do that, then you're about to have a blast. All right, well, I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this. Maybe lighten up, maybe loosen up a little bit, maybe release some expectations, be more in the moment, have fun, enjoy yourself, even while you do everything that you have to do. Still find moments and times to enjoy yourself. I hope you have a good whatever whenever you see this, and I hope you're acting in alignment to make it even better because, it's possible. It's all very, very possible.